In a historic move, a major bill has just passed the U.S. House of Representatives, signaling a potential turning point in American firearm regulation. This legislation aims to remove suppressors and short-barreled rifles, commonly known as SBRs, from the strict oversight of the National Firearms Act, or NFA. For nearly a century, these items have been among the most tightly regulated firearms accessories in the country, requiring buyers to pay a $200 tax and endure a lengthy, often months-long registration and approval process with the federal government. The new law would eliminate both the tax and the extended ATF approval period, dramatically streamlining the process and making these accessories far more accessible to everyday gun owners. Supporters of the bill argue that this is a long overdue fix to outdated regulations. They claim suppressors are essential for protecting shooters' hearing, and that the current rules unfairly burden law-abiding citizens who simply want to exercise their Second Amendment rights. Many also point out that suppressors are already legal in most states and are rarely used in crimes, suggesting that loosening restrictions would have little impact on public safety. However, opponents warn that making suppressors and SBRs easier to obtain could lead to an increase in gun violence and make it harder for law enforcement to track dangerous weapons. They argue that these changes could endanger public safety and undermine efforts to prevent gun-related crimes. The bill's passage in the House is just the first step in a much larger battle. It now heads to the Senate, where its future remains uncertain and the debate is expected to intensify. At the heart of the debate are fundamental questions about Second Amendment rights, the balance between individual freedom and collective security, and the proper role of government in regulating firearms. If enacted, this law would fundamentally reshape how Americans buy, own, and use these firearm accessories, potentially making them as commonplace as other gun-related products. The outcome could have far-reaching and lasting effects, not only for gun owners and the firearms industry, but also for the broader landscape of national gun policy and public safety. As the nation watches closely, all eyes now turn to the Senate for the next chapter in this high-stakes and deeply consequential debate. The proposed bill aims to remove suppressors and short-barreled rifles, or SBRs, from the National Firearms Act, also known as the NFA. This is a significant shift in federal firearms regulation, as these items have been tightly controlled for decades. If passed, suppressors and SBRs would be treated just like standard rifles or shotguns, making them much more accessible to law-abiding citizens. This would mean no extra hurdles compared to buying a regular long gun. Currently, anyone wanting to buy a suppressor or SBR faces a slow, expensive process. Buyers must submit fingerprints, passport photos, and pay a $200 tax for each item. The approval process can take months, sometimes even longer, causing frustration for many gun owners. Under the new law, purchasing a suppressor or SBR would only require a standard background check, just like buying any other rifle or shotgun. In many states, this could mean same-day pickup, making the process much faster and more convenient for responsible buyers. Supporters of the bill frame it as a tax and regulatory issue, arguing that the $200 tax is unfair and outdated. They hope to pass the legislation through the Senate with a simple majority, emphasizing the need for modernized laws that respect Second Amendment rights. The bill also includes a provision to block any new federal registry for these items, directly addressing gun owners' privacy concerns and fears of increased government tracking. For SBRs, this change would finally end years of confusion over pistol braces and clarify the legal status for millions of owners. Many people have been unsure whether their firearms are legal, and this bill aims to provide clear, straightforward rules. Owners could freely use short barrels without fear of accidentally violating complex federal law, allowing them to enjoy their firearms with greater peace of mind and confidence. If enacted, this legislation would bring long-sought legal clarity and relief to gun enthusiasts nationwide, fostering a sense of community and security among responsible gun owners. Gun rights groups are celebrating, calling the bill a historic win. The NRA and Gun Owners of America argue suppressors are safety tools, not criminal devices, and that the $200 tax is an outdated barrier. They say deregulation restores Second Amendment rights and prevents future government overreach. The bill's ban on new registries is seen as crucial protection against confiscation. These groups are now urging the Senate to pass the bill without weakening amendments. For them, this is a fundamental defense of gun rights and a step toward broader reform. Opponents, including gun control groups and law enforcement, warn the bill could threaten public safety. They argue suppressors make it harder to locate shooters and that the NFA's strict process prevents dangerous individuals from easy access. Critics say suppressors' noise reduction could aid criminals and confuse emergency responses. They also worry deregulating SBRs will make powerful, concealable weapons more available. The NFA, they argue, was designed to keep such weapons out of the wrong hands. Removing these safeguards, they say, risks undermining decades of gun safety policy. The bill now faces tough odds in the Senate, where the filibuster requires 60 votes for most legislation to advance. This procedural hurdle means that, unless there is significant bipartisan support, most bills can be blocked by a determined minority. The Senate is known for its slower, more deliberative pace, and this is where many bills stall. Supporters of the bill are hoping to bypass the filibuster by using a process called budget reconciliation. This special procedure allows certain budget-related bills to pass with only a simple majority, just 51 votes, if the bill is framed as a tax or spending measure. This strategy has been used before for major legislation. However, the Senate parliamentarian plays a crucial role in this process. The parliamentarian will carefully review the bill and decide if all its parts meet the strict requirements for reconciliation. If any provisions are found to be unrelated to the budget, they could be stripped out, potentially weakening the bill. Meanwhile, intense lobbying is underway on both sides. Advocacy groups, lobbyists, and concerned citizens are all reaching out to senators, especially those who have not yet decided how they will vote. Key swing senators are being targeted with calls, meetings, and public pressure campaigns. Behind the scenes, closed-door negotiations and committee hearings are taking place. Lawmakers are working to craft amendments and compromises that could help the bill gain enough support to pass. These discussions are often tense and can lead to significant changes in the bill's language. Even with the reconciliation process, securing 51 votes in a closely divided Senate remains a major challenge. Every vote counts, and just a few defections could doom the bill. Ultimately, the bill's fate may rest with a handful of moderate senators, whose decisions are being closely watched by both parties and the public. Their support or opposition could determine the outcome. The coming weeks will be critical, as the nation watches to see if this landmark change will make it through the Senate and become law, or if it will join the long list of stalled legislation. If the bill passes, hunters and sport shooters will see immediate benefits. Suppressors would become affordable and accessible, promoting safer shooting and hearing protection. The change could reduce noise complaints and make shooting more enjoyable for newcomers. Owners of firearms with pistol braces would gain legal clarity and freedom to customize their guns. While past buyers won't get refunds, a more open market could lower prices and spur innovation. Suppressors and SBRs would become normalized, shedding their exotic status. For many, this marks a cultural shift in American gun ownership. For gun rights groups, this bill is just the beginning. Their long-term goal is to repeal the entire National Firearms Act, not just parts of it. Success here sets a precedent for removing more items from NFA regulation, like short-barreled shotguns. They also aim to expand constitutional carry and challenge other gun restrictions nationwide. This bill energizes their base and builds momentum for future fights. If it becomes law, it could reshape the national conversation on gun rights and regulation. The Senate's decision will signal the future direction of American firearm policy.